Okay, so you're prepping for that master's entrance exam.
Yep.
And that English vocabulary list.
Right.
It can feel overwhelming sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
You see a word, you've maybe even seen it a dozen times, but really locking it down, like understanding its nuances, how it's actually used.
Yeah.
That's a whole other challenge.
For sure.
So for this deep dive, we're tackling a specific section that I think a lot of you guys are probably working with.
Yeah.
Day 6, Unit 2, D11-21.
Right.
And we're not just going to give you definitions. We're going to really explore those words in a way that sticks.
Yeah.
Make your study time way more efficient and maybe even a little bit fun.
Definitely. And I think one thing that's really helpful about this set of words is that they're not just random.
Right.
They actually cluster around certain themes.
Uh-huh.
You'll see groups related to movement.
Okay.
Labeling sensations like dizziness.
Interesting.
Even words that share common linguistic roots.
I like it.
And this thematic organization, it actually mirrors how our brains naturally create connections.
Right.
Which is a powerful tool for remembering vocabulary.
Exactly. It's like building a little neighborhood.
That's a great way to put it.
For these words in your brain.
Yeah.
So you can find them more easily.
Absolutely.
So consider us your guides through these vocabulary neighborhoods.
Right.
We're going to look at how these words actually behave in sentences, explore some smart ways to remember them.
Yeah.
No silly rhymes or pronunciation tricks here.
No, we promise.
And understand why they matter for your exam.
That's key.
And for just your English in general.
Exactly.
We're going to be diving into everything from taking a step to, feeling uninterested.
Right, a whole range.
So there's a lot of ground to cover, but we'll take it step by step.
One step at a time.
Exactly. And, if we think about this bigger picture, it's not just about H'ing this one test.
No.
It's about unlocking English.
Exactly.
Being able to express yourself better.
More precisely, yeah.
Understand those subtle meanings.
Become a more confident communicator.
That's the real goal here.
That's it.
Okay, so let's get our bodies moving, shall we?
All right, I'm ready.
Our first cluster of words is all about shoe.
Yeah.
Which means like walking or moving.
Okay.
And we're starting with stride.
Stride.
Now, it does involve walking, but stride implies a certain purposefulness to it.
Right.
These are long steps, often suggesting, confidence.
Oh, confidence, definitely.
So it's both a noun and a verb.
Okay.
It can be a long step or to walk with long steps.
Yeah.
Imagine, a professor striding across a lecture hall.
Yeah, I can picture that.
To make a point. A traveler, taking long strides across a vast open field.
Yeah, I like that image.
It's not just walking. It's intentional movement.
It is? Yeah.
So for remembering it, just picture that person taking these large, confident steps.
Okay.
Like they know exactly where they're going. And when you're reading passages, pay attention to stride.
Right.
They're describing a character moving with purpose.
That makes sense.
That's your cue.
I see.
Okay, next up in our movement neighborhood is swarm.
Swarm.
And this paints a very different picture.
Okay.
Instead of one person taking purposeful steps, we have a large, often this organized group moving together, usually insects. So you might read about tourists swarming around a famous landmark.
Oh, yeah.
All trying to get that photo, or mosquitoes swarming and making a summer evening miserable.
The worst.
The key to remembering swarm is that image of this big active mass moving without a clear direction. So in exams, swarm often comes up when they're describing crowded, chaotic scenes.
Got it.
Or overwhelming situations.
That makes sense.
Then we have crawl.
Crawl.
This slows things way down. Crawl means to move on your hands and knees.
Right.
Or to progress very slowly. Think of a baby crawling across the floor exploring.
Yeah.
Or traffic crawling along during rush hour.
Oof, I know that feeling.
Making everyone late.
Yeah.
The memory hook here is that low, slow movement in exam passages. Crawl might be used to describe the movement of small creatures or a really slow period of progress.
Got it.
In a project or situation.
That makes sense. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
The contrast between stride and crawl really highlights how precise English can be in describing different speeds and manners of movement.
One's efficient and upright.
Yeah.
The other is slow and close to the ground.
Exactly.
Okay, our next movement verb is drag.
Drag.
This one implies effort and resistance.
Okay.
So as a verb, it's to pull something along with difficulty. And as a noun, it can refer to something burdensome or tedious.
Yeah.
Imagine dragging a heavy suitcase through an airport.
Oh, yeah.
Or feeling like a long, boring meeting. is a real drag on your afternoon.
Yeah, definitely.
So to remember drag, visualize that effort of pulling something heavy or the feeling of being weighed down.
Got it.
And for exam questions, drag often relates to burdens, obstacles, or slow, difficult processes.
Yeah, and it's interesting how drag is often used metaphorically.
Oh, yeah.
Something that drags you down.
Right.
It's not literally pulling you.
Right.
But it's hindering your progress or your mood.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
So recognizing that dual meaning, I think, is really key.
Absolutely. Okay, finally, in our movement verbs, we have lag.
Lags.
Lag is all about falling behind.
Okay.
Think of a younger sibling lagging behind their older siblings on a walk. Or a company lagging behind its competitors in innovation.
Right.
The memory technique here is picturing someone or something not keeping up with the pace.
I got it.
So in exams, lag often appears when they're talking about delays, deficits, or a lack of progress.
Yeah, and lag almost always implies a comparison.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right, something is lacking in relation to something else. A standard, a group, or a timeline.
It's all relative.
It is, yeah.
All right. Let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about words related to E, or labeling and branding.
All right.
First up is tag.
Tag.
Think of those small pieces of paper or even electronic markers that we use to identify things. We have name tags on clothing at a conference, online articles tagged with keywords.
Right, to help you find them.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the act of tagging is simply attaching that identifier.
Okay.
For your exam, understanding tag is really useful when you're dealing with identification or categorization of information.
Got it.
Next is label.
Label.
And this is a broader term than tag.
Okay.
A label can be a physical tag, like the label inside your shirt that tells you the size and the material.
Okay.
But it can also be a descriptive term.
Interesting.
Applied to a person or a group.
Right.
Sometimes with negative connotations.
Oh, yeah.
We also talk about fashion labels, the brand names of clothing designers.
Right.
So a label can identify, categorize, or denote a brand.
So it has multiple functions.
Exactly. Your memory technique.
Okay.
Consider broader categories, brand names, and even potentially stereotypical descriptions.
Okay, I like that.
Exam relevance often involves discussions of consumerism, social categorization.
Makes sense.
Or identifying different types of information.
Got it. And the key difference between tag and label often lies in the scope and the permanence. A tag is more specific and temporary, while a label can carry broader associations and be more enduring.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
Think about the difference between tagging a photo with a location and the label of historic landmark.
Oh, that's a good example.
Right.
Okay, and that leads us to brand.
Brand.
This is all about the overall image, reputation, and identity of a product, service, or company. Think about comparing different brands of smartphones.
Oh, yeah?
Each one has its own strengths, weaknesses.
Right.
Or the loyalty that people feel to certain brands.
Absolutely.
For your memory, focus on that overall image and reputation.
Okay.
In exams, brand is crucial for understanding marketing, consumer behavior,
makes sense,
and corporate identity.
Right. A brand is more than just a name or a logo.
That's true.
It's the whole customer experience.
Right.
The values, the emotional connection.
Yeah, it's a big concept.
It is, yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears again.
All right.
Let's talk about pi,
Okay.
or states of dizziness.
Got it.
We'll start with faint.
Faint?
This word actually has a couple of related meanings.
Okay.
It can describe something weak or indistinct, like a faint sound in the distance. Or it can refer to the act of losing consciousness.
Okay.
Like someone who faints from lack of food or heat.
Right.
So for remembering it, connect to this sense of weakness.
Okay.
Either in terms of intensity or physical strength.
Got it.
Exam-wise, faint can describe a lack of clarity or intensity in a stimulus.
Okay.
Or a temporary loss of consciousness in a narrative.
So both meanings could come up.
Exactly. The link between the two meanings. Is this reduction in strength or intensity?
Right.
Either the sensory input is becoming weak or the body's losing its ability to function consciously.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay, then we have stun.
Stun.
This implies a sudden shock or surprise that momentarily leaves you unable to think or react. Imagine someone being stunned into silence by bad news.
Oh, yeah.
Or a magician performing a stunning trick.
Right.
That leaves the audience in awe.
Totally.
So picture that feeling of being overwhelmed or shocked.
Okay.
In exams, stun often describes a reaction to something surprising or impactful.
So it's about that immediate effect.
Yeah, that momentary whoa feeling.
Exactly.
Dizzy is that swirling sensation of losing your balance.
Dizzy.
Feeling dizzy after spinning around too many times, or maybe as a side effect of medication.
Right.
The best way to remember this is to recall that specific feeling of imbalance and lightheadedness. Exam relevance is usually describing physical sensations.
Makes sense. And dizzy is primarily a physical sensation related to the inner ear.
Yeah.
And the body's balance mechanisms.
Okay, our final word in the category is dazzle. This can be literal, like being dazzled by sunlight reflecting off snow, or figurative, like a performance lacking technical dazzle despite being emotionally engaging.
Okay, so it can be positive or negative.
Exactly. It suggests something overwhelmingly bright or impressively skillful.
Yeah, I see that.
So for your memory, think of that intense brightness or overwhelming impressiveness. In exams, dazzle often describes something brilliant.
Right.
Flashy or superficially impressive.
So it can have that element of maybe deception?
It can, yeah.
Or surface level.
Okay, now let's look at words related to which means light and appearance.
All right.
We'll start with charm.
Charm.
This refers to the quality of being pleasing or attractive. A small, old-fashioned hotel might be described as full of charm.
Oh, yeah.
Or a charismatic speaker might be said to charm their audience.
Right, they have that charisma.
Exactly. Focus on that quality of being attractive and agreeable.
Okay.
Exam-wise, charm is often used to describe appealing qualities in people, places, or things.
And charm is often subtle.
Yeah.
It's that intangible quality.
You can't quite put your finger on it.
Exactly.
But it makes someone likable and engaging.
Yeah.
Elegant describes a refined and graceful beauty.
Elegant?
Often in appearance or style.
Okay.
Think of a tall, elegant woman in a flowing dress.
Right.
Or the elegant simplicity of a well-designed piece of furniture. Visualize that sense of refined beauty and grace.
Got it.
In exams, elegant is used to describe sophistication and style.
Makes sense.
Often in fashion, art, or design.
And elegant suggests a beauty that's sophisticated, understated, and associated with good taste.
Right.
Refinement.
It's not over the top.
Exactly.
Closely related to elegant is grace.
Grace.
This can refer to a smooth and refined way of moving.
Right.
Like the grace of a ballerina.
Yeah.
Or to polite and courteous behavior, like accepting a compliment with grace. Consider both the physical and behavioral aspects.
Right.
Exam relevance often involves describing poise etiquette and skillful movement.
Grace really encompasses both physical dexterity and social decorum.
It does.
It suggests that smooth, effortless, and refined manner.
Absolutely.
In both action and interaction.
Okay, the opposite of grace in some ways is disgrace. This signifies a loss of honor, respect, or reputation. You might hear that there's no disgrace at admitting you don't know something.
Right.
Or that a public scandal has brought disgrace upon an institution.
Yeah.
Think of shame and loss of honor to remember this one.
Okay.
In exams, disgrace often comes up when discussing social stigma, reputation damage, or shameful behavior.
Right. Disgrace carries that strong negative moral and social weight.
It does.
Implying a serious fall from respectability.
Okay, glow refers to a soft, steady light.
Glow.
Like the glow of embers in a fireplace. Or a healthy radiance.
Right.
Like the glow on someone's cheeks after exercise.
Yeah.
Imagine that gentle light or healthy flush.
Okay.
In exams, glow often describes subtle illumination.
Right.
Warmth, or a sign of health and vitality.
So it's a positive word usually.
Yeah, it usually is.
And glow suggests a gentle, continuous emission of light that often implies warmth or health.
Right. Polish can be a noun.
Polish.
Referring to a substance used to make something shiny.
Yeah.
Or a verb meaning to make something smooth and shiny by rubbing it.
Okay.
You might give your shoots a polish. Or a writer might polish their manuscript to perfection.
Right.
So visualize the act of making something smooth and shiny.
Okay.
In exams, polish can refer to that literal shine or to refinement and final touches on a piece of work.
Because again, that dual meaning.
Exactly. And polish implies attention to detail, striving for a high level of finish. Glitter is that bright, sparkling light. Think of a disco ball glittering with reflected light.
Oh, yeah.
Or sunlight making the surface of the water glitter. Picture that bright, scattered sparkle.
Okay.
Exam relevance usually involves describing dazzling visual effects or something that is superficially attractive.
Right. So glitter suggests a more scattered and intense form of light than glow.
Okay.
Creating that shimmering, eye-catching effect.
Got it. Finally, in our light and appearance words, we have litter.
Litter.
This can be scattered rubbish.
Yeah.
Like fines for dropping litter.
Right.
Or a state of untidiness.
Okay.
Like papers littered across a desk. Imagine scattered waste or general disarray.
Got it.
In exams, litter often discusses pollution, untidiness, or just scattered items.
And litter implies a collection of unwanted items that detract from the cleanliness or order of a place.
Okay, let's move on to words containing the root literary, which relates to literature and letters. First is literary.
Literary.
Which unsurprisingly means relating to books, writing, or academic study of literature. We talk about great literary figures, or the literary merit of a novel. To remember this, just connected to the book's authors and the study of written works.
Got it.
Exam relevance is usually when they're discussing literature, poetry, or academic fields related to language.
And literary often implies a certain level of artistic quality and intellectual depth.
Right. It's not just any writing.
Exactly.
Literal refers to the exact primary meaning of a word or phrase.
Literal.
Without any figurative interpretation.
Right.
So if someone says they literally died laughing, they usually don't mean it in the literal sense.
Right.
Understanding the literal meaning is crucial for accurate comprehension. Focus on that direct, non-figurative meaning. In exams, you'll often need to distinguish between the literal and figurative meaning of statements.
Right, and the ability to interpret language accurately often hinges on understanding that distinction.
That's so true.
Between the literal and the intended meaning.
Right.
Because misinterpreting that can lead to big misunderstanding.
For sure. Lastly, in this litera group, we have literacy.
Literacy.
Which is the ability to read and write.
Right.
But we also use it to refer to knowledge. Or competence in a specific area, like computer literacy or financial literacy. So link it to the skills of reading and writing, as well as having knowledge in a specific field. Exam relevance often involves discussions of education levels, societal development, or specific skill sets.
And literacy in that broader sense really signifies being knowledgeable and competent in a particular domain. Which allows you to understand and engage with it effectively.
Our next set of words shares the car element. First up is scarce.
Scarce.
Meaning limited in quantity or availability rare. You might read about scarce resources in a developing country. Or scarce historical documents from a particular era. Think of something being hard to find. Or insufficient to meet demand.
Got it.
In exams, scarce often comes up when discussing economics, environmental issues.
Makes sense.
Or historical analysis, where availability is limited.
And the noun form scarcity refers to that state of being scarce.
Exactly. And these are fundamental concepts.
They are.
In economics.
Highlighting that basic principle that resources are finite. But human wants are infinite.
Always wanting more.
Exactly.
Then we have carpenter.
Carpenter.
Which is simply a person who is skilled at making and repairing things made of wood. You might read about a master carpenter crafting furniture. Or someone being apprenticed to a carpenter to learn the trade. Relate this word directly to working with wood.
Got it. And that image of a carpenter carefully shaping wood with their tools provides a really strong mental picture.
It does. Finally, with car, we have craft.
Craft.
This word can refer to a skill or art, especially one requiring manual dexterity or artistic talent, like the craft of pottery or jewelry making. It can also be used as a verb, meaning to make something skillfully and carefully. Acquiring a new craft can be very rewarding.
It can be,
Focus on that idea of skill artistry and careful creation. In exams, craft can relate to discussions of art, skill development, or even cunning or skillful planning.
Interesting. So it has that kind of double meaning.
It does, and craft emphasizes that element of skill, expertise, and often the personal touch involved in creating something.
Which distinguishes it from mass-produced items.
Exactly. Okay, now for some words related to emotions, specifically excitement and agitation.
Got it.
We'll start with thrill.
Thrill.
Which is a sudden feeling of excitement, pleasure, or nervousness. You might experience the thrill of riding a roller coaster. Or the thrill of finally meeting someone you admire. Imagine that sudden rush of emotion. Exam relevance often involves describing strong positive emotions. Or moments of intense excitement in narrative.
And a thrill is a sharp, intense burst of emotion.
It is.
Often short-lived, but memorable.
Yeah, those are the ones that stick with you.
Exactly. On the other side, we have agitate.
Agitate.
Which means to make someone troubled or nervous, or to physically stir something up.
Okay.
News of a potential crisis might agitate the financial markets.
Right.
Or a strong wind might agitate the surface of a lake. Think of causing emotional unrest or physical disturbance.
Okay.
In exams, agitate often describes states of anxiety, unrest,
right,
or physical stirring.
So it implies that state of unease, anxiety, or physical disturbance that prevents calmness or stillness.
Exactly. Okay, we have quite a collection of words ending in ate.
Right.
Let's start with compensate.
Compensate.
Meaning to make up for a loss, injury, or inconvenience.
Okay.
If your flight is delayed, the airline might compensate you with a voucher. Or a company might compensate employees for overtime work.
Yeah.
Think of making amends.
Or providing a recompense for something.
Okay. And the core idea of compensate is to provide something of equivalent value to offset a loss or harm.
Hesitate means to pause.
Hesitate?
Or be reluctant to do something, usually because of uncertainty or doubt.
Right.
Don't hesitate to ask questions if you're unsure.
Yeah.
Or a company might hesitate to.